Black Cat Lounge is sponsored by Paranormal Oddities, the little store with the big heart. Dragonfly, Art and Soul. Paraniagara, where the real ghosts of Lockport hang out. Wild Raven Candles for those magical times. Queen of Tarts, Metaphysical and Bake Shop. Hey everybody, welcome to the Black Cat Lounge. It's Tuesday night, and I always say, where would you want to be on a Tuesday night? You are hanging out with, well, you're looking at one handsome bald-headed guy here. There's a rumor that there is a second handsome bald-headed guy that's going to be on the show. It's just a rumor. We're not quite sure yet, but we're not sure. But hey, I got to say a special hello to Colette. Colette is from across the pond, and I'm always so thrilled that Colette stops in, because I know that so many times we don't get a chance to go and actually really recognize such a great fan base. And I want to say hi to, and Debbie's in, and Big Frank is in, of course, because he just got done strangling tractors at the gym and he got home early. Anyway, I just want to just jump in to this show because of the fact that it's an amazing show, because we have an amazing guest. And I have to let everybody know that our guest tonight is a filmmaker. He's an author. He has an eye for the unusual. And I have to say that it's almost like a form of chaos art. His location is one that I have to say just blew me away. It was part of something that I've always wanted to do. It's part of something that a place that's been on my bucket list ever since I saw it. I remember Brian Cano is where I saw him from, and I just said, we have to get there someday, and we actually did it. So he is the owner of the Grand Midway Hotel in Winburn, Pennsylvania. He is the one, the only, probably, and I have to say, he is hair follically challenged, like yours truly, which makes us like true brothers. The amazing Blair Murphy. Hey Blair, how are you? Thank you for being on the show tonight. You know what? That looks like it's pretty well scraped. Mine's getting a little long in the tooth. I have to go get a scrape job on this. Thank you for being here.
It's great to be here.
Blair, I mean this in all sincerity. You know what? I'm a person that appreciates chaos art, and I appreciate locations that are unusual. I appreciate collections because, everybody knows what I collect and all the things that I collect. And when I first walked into the hotel, I felt at home. I truly, truly felt at home. It's not a place that to me was scary. It's not a place that was really crazy. I just thought it was to me, it was beautiful. So thank you for doing that. I really enjoy that. And Blair, I got to really ask you. Now you seem to be like a really nice, soft-spoken dude that, very, very kind and just a nice guy. How the hell did you get involved with buying that hotel? That hotel is phenomenal, but how did you ever buy? What made you decide to buy that?
I was in Los Angeles working in the film industry, and I kind of burned out. I just wanted to take a break for a season or a year.
Mm-hmm.
And a buddy of mine and his wife in New Orleans were kind of in the same boat in the music scene there. And his wife called him and said, "Hey, there's this 32-room hotel on eBay for sale for $11,000. And if someone doesn't buy it immediately, they're about to tear it down." And a week later, I was living there. And it just came out of that. And then I just never left. It became such an adventure that we had no idea about the haunted aspect, but we were kind of perfect for it. and I felt like the building found us. And then it just kept. It was rough at first. It was real rough, but then it just kept upgrading, and then so it became a cooler and cooler place to live, and now it's on its own. It practically operates itself. So
It's just amazing because I always find that buildings such as this will always find the right person that really has that that sight that they can see the future. And also I believe it's like almost vibrational. Right person, right place at the right time. And it just you are the piece of the puzzle that was probably missing in its history. So let's talk about the history of the place. And I have a photo here of it in the early days. What's the little pedigree of this place? Because it is, to me, it is like unbelievably amazing.
okay, Windber is a coal mining town. It was created by the Berwyn Company. Windber is Berwyn flipped backwards. And in the center of town is this little park, and in the center of the park is the Midway, which is what we're seeing right now. And this was created in the 1890s, and it was a brothel, and for years. And so there was a lot of it was really pretty brutal in the early days. The coal miners' lives were brutal. This was pre-labor laws, and so
Hmm.
mines would collapse, and little kids were forced to work in the mines. And then I'm sure the lives for the women that worked there was not any. The walls are
Right.
soaked in just brutality and hard sex and hard working underground people. There's 14 miles of tunnels underground beneath the
Hmm.
hotel. Coal mines. Coal mines.
It's amazing because when I was reading up on the hotel, they were talking about all the coal mines that were underneath. Because I mean, we're familiar with it, but we have salt mines up here,
Mhm.
so I'm very familiar with that whole aspect of tunneling down and under. But I was I was surprised that it actually had transit mines or transit tunnels connecting businesses.
Yeah.
Is this would that have been like something that would have been uh, something that they would have done in prohibition, or because it was so close to the rail lines, maybe they unloaded stuff and brought it in through that way?
Yeah, it was before Prohibition. It was created as part of the town. The whole town was created in one single year swoop, and by the company, and you were paid in company money, and everything was planned out for efficiency, so that money would end up in the hands of the coal town
Right.
creators. And there's a system of tunnels that's just beneath the surface that connects all several buildings in town. It was more efficient for delivering money underground because the money that was coming through this community at that time period was unreal. I mean, one of the 50 richest Americans lived in this little town, and at that time period, and so they delivered money. And from when it was a brothel, I'm told that was the entrance that more dignified people would sneak into the hotel for
Hmm.
brothel purposes. And the tunnels are still there. They're sealed off, but they're still there, and they connect several businesses in town.
Well, I'm very familiar with the way that everything worked in that area. And what people don't realize is, yes, it was a very Wittenberg was a very, very economic. It was like a boom town. But
Mhm.
you also had was it
Johnstown
Johnstown?
with
Yeah,
steel mills, yeah, same thing.
yeah. I mean, and that's where the Great Flood took place when the coffer dams let go, and that was a playground for the rich.
Mhm.
So Carnegie and all the robber barons and stuff were up there. So people don't understand that place, that area, was so integral and connected into actually our history, which I thought was amazing to it. Now,
Mhm.
when you first let's just go and say when you first acquired this, what were you thinking? Were you going to stay there? Did you guys think you're going to stay there forever? Did you guys think that you were going to go and maybe just buy it and rent it out, or what was
We
your
had no
thinking with
intention
that?
to rent it out. It was a private home. We were thinking along the lines of Andy Warhol's factory,
Right.
some
Yeah.
of these other art communes where you just have a lot of rooms, and you let all your artsy fartsy friends move in, and whatever we manifested during that time period would be, kind of neat. And
Hmm.
so there was no intention. We weren't thinking about paranormal in any way. It was all for the artists, And so in the early days, we targeted a lot of artists, and we said, you should know us, you should come here, and a lot came. And but the paranormal aspect just took over, and now every weekend it's just paranormal investigators there.
Oh, I can't even imagine, because it's, I'm telling you, like when we talked, when I was there, I told you it's a hidden gem, because people, some people know about it, but it's at that point where, yes, it's well known, but yet it's still a little under the radar,
Yeah,
and
we don't
it's,
advertise or anything, so you have to
you know,
find. I
I,
want I don't want people there unless they find us and they want to be there. It's a hobby for me, so I'm not interested in entertaining anybody that's not interested in being there. Period.
that's the best philosophy, because of the fact that when you don't push for it, that's when it comes to you. That's when everybody starts hearing about it. And that's what I think is so cool about it. Now, you know, I was doing a little research on the place,
Mhm.
and oh my god, you guys had a coffee house there, you had music. Uh I have to ask you this. What's this about the wizards all congregating there? Because I mean, we do know like Christopher Day and some pretty cool people like that. But what was and between the wizards and, was it DracuCon? That was something else you did there?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of people in not necessarily um, paranormal investigations also come to play. There's a lot. I have a magic background,
Hmm.
and so there's a lot of people in the magic community that use the place or have used it for ceremonies, and I've done a lot of research with tarot there and other aspects that have nothing to do with ghosts. And
Hmm.
um, and then so we tried to get a couple Guinness awards, and one of them was largest number of people dressed as a wizard. That's what I think you're referring to.
Right.
There was like
Right.
hundreds of people out front dressed as wizards at
That's
one point.
that's great. But see, you know what? To me, that to me is creative, and that to me is interesting. It's like now we start have, like, locally at Christmas time we do have we have the Krampus little parade here and locally. So things like that really fascinate me. I got to ask you, what was it like when you first moved in? What was that first week like? Was it a little bit like, this place is like a little bit more creepier than I thought it would be, or did you feel comfortable?
It both. I mean, I'm very comfortable with creepy stuff. I was raised in a funeral home. My parents were funeral directors and coroners, and so uh, I I've been raised around dead bodies and coffins and all that
Hmm.
my whole life, and so that's just very familiar to me. But it was creepy out to say, and so our first we arrived in October, and it was very bohemian and beautiful and magical, and then winter hit, and by mid-November were very uncomfortable in the because of the elements. All the pipes froze, and all our snow globes froze, and toilets froze, and coffee maker froze. And then things went downhill from there. We had months of really miserable living because there was no heating system in the building.
Hmm.
So I just remember shivering in my room for the first 2 winters. It was very harsh for living there, and so in the beginning it was wonderful, beautiful, and then it got terrible for a while, and then I stuck it out. My roommates stayed 1 year and said we're not going to go through another winter, and I just stayed, and
Yep.
now it's better. It's not perfect. It's real rustic still, but it's certainly a lot better conditions now.
But believe me, you know what? I did the right thing. I hit the third floor. I knew the heat rises. I was happy up there. I was nice and comfortable. I knew I've survived abandoned buildings before. So life was good for me when I was visiting. I have to tell everybody, when you first walk into this place, it's amazing. It's amazing. Tell us a little bit about that Titanic bar.
Okay, so we have a ship bar. There's steam stacks in the middle there. You can see, and there's portals on the side of it, and it's a boat. It's a big giant boat, and we asked some people in town what's the deal with this? Like, why is there a boat themed bar in the building? Because the old owners didn't know either. It was there before them,
Hmm.
and some people suggested that it was because of the Titanic, because the coal for the Titanic came from the Berwyn Company,
Oh,
and
I did not know that.
so this company town sold the coal to the Titanic. The Titanic went down, and we think that they were capitalizing on all the fame of the Titanic, and that's why they created a boat themed bar.
So, in other words, the little piece of coal that I have from that was brought up from the Titanic in my collection,
Might have come from us, maybe.
that's pretty cool. I did not know that. That just now that actually gives me a little bit more provenance on that. I love that. Now here's the other part of the bar here. When you first walk in, there's a coffin to your right, and of course you the taxidermy is great. I love old taxidermy, and there just happens to be a little safe in the middle, and it is to me it's just like walking into like my own collection room because it's just there's so much to look at. Now when you were like set when you were set decorating, what was your whole theme behind this when you wanted to do this? What was your idea?
Well, in the early days, it wasn't decorated spooky.
Hmm.
It was much more artsy, and the artists that I was championing, as well as my roommates, were more like movie related artists or rock and roll artists,
Hmm.
and now the themes are all just it's spooky all the way. I love the Haunted Mansion at Disney as a little kid, so this is kind of a tweaked version of the Haunted Mansion in some ways.
I would say it's better because you can actually live in there. The haunted mansion is just you can't get out of your car, and that always is what kind of like made it suck for me. But now when we start looking at it now, something else that I just absolutely loved. You got to tell everybody how you procured part of Anne Rice's doll collection because I understand. I mean, she had a vast number of dolls, and she when I remember now when she correct me if I'm wrong when she moved from New Orleans, I think to California. I think that's what the move was. She took like only some, and then she just the rest. What's the whole story with that?
Okay, so there's a lot of collections in the building, and people have been over time have started giving us other items from their own museums as they're closing, and it's great because we have a lot of space, and so people have been reaching out to me, and I say I'm open for anything. Yeah, I'll create a space for it, and or a whole tribute to it. And so I'm a huge Anne Rice fan. I used to know the Rices a
Hmm.
little. I knew her husband better than her, but I saw online this advertisement saying that the Anne Rice Doll Museum had closed down in New Orleans after Katrina, and they had she took half the collection with her, and half was in the museum, and they were just in storage, and they didn't want the dolls to just be in storage. So I wrote them and I said, "Hey, Sue Carez, who's her assistant, who actually made this happen." So I said to her, "I have this church in town. I think it would be, might be a nice fit. I'd turn it into a museum." And so they said, "Come on down." So I drove down with a big truck. I didn't even know what I was picking up, and brought all these boxes back. And there was all kinds of other treasures in there, like awards from the mayor,
Oh,
and
really?
Anne Rice's shoes from her signings that she would paint gold, and books and items from Stan that he brought back from Haiti, and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Wow,
So
wow.
quite a neat thing to unravel all these treasures, and so they're in the building too. Yeah.
Now, because now we had just talked off the air. You've recently sold the church, and because somebody had asked me why all the dolls were there, and here's a picture of this is just a small portion of the collection. That is that amazing? Take a look at that. That's just a small portion of it. I mean, when you walk in there, it is just encompassing. It's totally just will soak you in. And there's just so much to look at. And I know a lot of people get creeped out by dolls, but these don't happen to be haunted, right?
I don't know. I don't know. They. I don't know the source of any of them because they came from all over the world. The Rices probably don't even know the source of. If you're asking if there's any attachments to them, I don't really know. There's one or two dolls that actually consistently guests mention it. They say, well, if there was an attachment, I would point to this one and that one, and
Hmm.
they're pretty consistent. And so that hasn't been part of I've really archived and researched the hotel to every last nook and cranny, but the dolls are relatively new in the hotel. I've never spent the night with the dolls because they were in the church for the first
Mhm.
2 years. So they're new to our as far as collections go in the building,
That's
which
awesome.
is sort of
Andrea Richards, who was with us, Blair, you've done a fantastic job. It's such a cool place, and I echo that sentiment. But we also have the famous Steve from the Buckland Museum. Blair, Tim, it's good to see you both
he
on
on
here.
now?
Steve
Is
is
he
there,
on?
baby. When I came home, whoops,
Oh,
I'll
he was
put that
cool.
back up for you. Steve wanted to know immediately what I thought of the place, and I said it is awesome. It is probably one of the top 5 places I've ever been.
Oh, that's nice.
And he I mean he related that his wife had a peculiar dream about uh someone who had been killed there, and or had that died by accident. And I believe it was you know what, you're gonna have to fill me in because I can't remember her name. She was you can tell everybody uh about the fire, the fireworks accident. And I
Martha?
believe that was what she was talking about.
Okay. Oh, I hope they come back. I really actually I owe them a visit. It's my job to now go to the Buckland. So, but they were cool guests that came here. Um,
Oh,
so
they were in the Shakespeare room that he says.
right. Okay. So that's a whole nother wing next door. I bought the building next door and expanded the Shakespeare. We'll go into that later,
Yeah.
but Martha, we've had a bunch of deaths there, as all old buildings do. You know, I don't think our place is necessarily special that way, but we've had some pretty neat, pretty interesting deaths. And one of them was everyone in town kept saying this horrible death happened in that building, and that everybody in town witnessed it, but no one had any details. It took about a year before someone from the Serwinski family visited, and they said, "Oh, our great aunt Martha died there by fireworks." And I suddenly, "Oh, you have the story," and they gave me a date, and it's 1911, July 4th, and a name, and so Martha Serwinski was a 19-year-old, and she was. We had these porches up higher up, and she was watching the celebration below. There was 10,000 people in the park, the newspaper article says, and
That's
firemen were
amazing.
dropping rockets into pipes between their legs, right there in the crowd. And one of the rockets exploded on the ground, and this frisbee of iron shot up to our porch and knocked her throat off, and she died screaming and bleeding down over the entire community. And Martha seems really dug in. Like I feel like she's our strongest spirit in the building. That she turns up very, very often, and not like a screaming dying ghost. She's
No.
real chill and just hello, I'm Martha, and she worked there when it was a brothel. One of the brothel employees.
Well, Steven says no, it was a murder down the hallway, down the hall.
Okay, okay, it
Uh,
might have been the canopy, someone from the canopy room. We think that a woman was killed in the canopy room, which seems to be a room that feels like a young woman is always just screaming, "Get out of my room!" and men aren't so welcome in that room. And it's the one spot in the building that seems to spit out the most paranormal activity pretty consistently. Yeah, that's the room. Yeah,
that's the room right there.
yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to tell you what. I was going to stay in that room. When you told me that men don't, aren't really welcome, I was going to stay in that room until I turned around and I saw this. I can't do it. I can't do it. That
Yeah.
as a kid, I remember seeing The
Well,
Exorcist.
right.
That's there's not a lot that creeps me out, Blair, but that definitely creeped me right the hell out. I
Yeah.
said, no, the demon room for me, I can't do the other one. I just can't do it. It's hysterical, but you sit there and you go, oh, it's like, no, I don't think I want
I
to be
think
in
you're
there.
very unnerving to sleep under, even though it's just a Halloween toy. It's not that
Yeah.
doll itself is.
Everything, I mean, everything else doesn't bother me, but that's one of my triggers. Of course, I mean, growing up in the 70s, I mean, that was, I remember when they were filming it, and I went to a parochial school and it was 8th grade, and the nun said, "Oh, children, do not go see this. This is blasphemous." And of course, we all had to go see it, and scared the hell out of us. And that's still to this day, that still gives me nightmares.
Still
But
holds up to this day, that
it
movie.
does. The first one, it really does. And when I met Linda a couple of years ago at a con, and I asked her, I said, "Are you bothered that you did that so young?" not that you peaked or anything, but because it was just such an impactful movie. And she said, no, she goes, I'm glad. She goes, in before it was a little tougher. She goes, and I really had a lot of resentment against it, but now I can actually see, the true meaning of it, and I can see the value of it and what a trendsetter it was and how it's become a cult, really a cult
Sure,
classic.
for sure.
And I thought, good. I was thrilled that she came and she was able to be a part of it. Now I gotta ask you about. Well, I'll come. We'll just go and I'm going to find it here in the canopy room. You guys have a beautiful painting of the Zodiac. Tell us about that. I mean, it's amazing. There's just so much. I have so many pictures here, and I know we're not going to get to them. But could you tell everybody about who painted this? And
Are you talking about the mural? Okay, that's not the canopy room. That's above the
oh,
dock.
I'm sorry. That's the doll room. You're
Which
correct.
is
I'm
also the
sorry.
building. So we in the early we would invite artists to move in and we'd say do whatever you want, take a wall, paint on it. And so a 23-year-old moved in from Pittsburgh. Her name was Camille Zamboni, and she painted that in her first 2 weeks here to make an impression, and she did. Everyone was wowed by
Wow,
it.
wow.
Uh, so she just pounded that out right away, like first couple days in the building.
That's incredible. That's just incredible.
Yeah.
And well, I have to show everybody my favorite. I have to find it now. Uh we got to look for I have to find the tell everybody about the tarot. Uh
Okay, so a different room on the first floor has a large ceiling, and I wanted to put the universe card from Crowley's deck. Yeah, that's it. That's hard to photograph, by the way. Like, where do you sit to get the whole thing in there?
I hit it with a wide angle lens and I still couldn't get it all in.
Yeah. So I'd wanted that on the ceiling for a while. I went through a bunch of artists, and everyone kept kind of like, it's a big project. And finally, this tattoo artist in town, his name's Terrence Kaufman, said, I want to do it. So it took him about 2 months, and he put it on the ceiling. And then we approached Guinness as an afterthought, the Guinness Book of World Records, and we said, hey, is this the world's largest tarot card? And they gave us the award for it. It's not painted on the ceiling. It's painted on wood suspended from the ceiling, so it could be disassembled and stood up out front. For instance, it could be a giant card, is what I'm saying.
I think it's awesome. I think it's just
That's pretty beautiful.
totally awesome. Now, I got to ask you, all over the place I keep seeing all these little urns, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm one of those guys that does the same thing. You go to the grave of someone who has been influential to you, or you're interested. You always wanted it, but yet, you know, the closest that I personally could come is go to their grave and touch the ground.
Mhm.
And you've got to tell everybody about all these little jars and urns that you have.
Okay. Well, first I should say again, I was raised in a funeral home, so I have the greatest respect for graveyards and grave
Hmm.
sites, and and I have a bit of uh, some background in necromancy, and I'm not down with people that say steal bones and all that sort of thing. I'm
Right. I agree.
that pretty much. But my ex and Camille Zamboni, the one who did the mural on the ceiling, we were dating for a while, and we would go to graveyards, and instead of doing etchings of tombstones, we would gather up some leaves or some dirt from the area of each tomb. Now I didn't dig or anything like that, but so they're all filled with cemetery dirt, and we would we just I had this thought like I'm gonna have a whole wine cellar full of dirt from all over the country, and well, there's a lot. The jars are all over the place, and they all came from graves all over the place. And I videotaped each little adventure, and so that's about as deep as it gets. Really, I don't do anything with them. I thought, well, no one will believe that. They'll think you do something, which I thought, well, okay, so it'll add to people's imagination. But I don't really do anything with them.
Well, all my friends, I have a lot of friends who are voodoo practitioners, and graveyard dirt has a lot of special meaning to them.
Mhm.
But I mean, I think it's great. I think it's a great homage to these people whom were, you know, someone that you've either read about or were influenced by or were famous writers at the time. I love it. I think it's great, and I think it's a fitting tribute. It's a personal tribute, and people don't get that sometimes. People think that you have to go and spend buku amounts of money in order to have this tribute that that means so much to me, and I think that's a problem with it. Now, I have to go and I have to show everybody. All of the rooms are not super spooky.
Mhm.
I almost slept in this room, the dragon room. But I thought, what's the sense of sleeping in a room? I came 4 hours to sleep in a scary room. Why would I come here? And this is a beautiful room. What was the inspiration behind this beautiful room?
Well, besides paranormal people and magic people, we get a lot of gamers come, and so like Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, Dungeons and Dragons, King Arthur, that was all sort of in the air too. And so I just created a dragon themed room and kind of threw all those influences in there. Harry Potter, etc., Knights in Armor, all that. And so
I love it. I think it's great. And a friend of mine, Bridget, who couldn't make it, unfortunately, she had dibs on that room, and it was like she goes, because that's the only room that really didn't freak me out too much when I saw photos of it. I said,
we have a beatnik room.
I oh
Because I
yeah,
love like 50s literature, even cheesy literature, and
right there.
nobody ever books it because people don't even know what beatniks are. That culturally, it's just sort of it's so far back now.
I
Uh,
know.
it's
Yeah,
just
I
it's
agree.
cool. But it's a very Americana kind of room, and a lot of Jack Kerouac and William Burroughs, Allen Ginsberg, all that in there.
But that was a golden age. People don't realize
Yeah,
of what influences those people are on even a lot of the authors today. And I
yeah.
mean, I remember I was probably 13, 12 years old when I read Kerouac,
Mhm.
and that just kind of well, my wife will probably tell you that that's why my brain is functioning the way it does. But I mean, these are things that people don't understand. And I think it fits perfectly in with that hotel because of the time era, because that's exactly what it was like. You were on the road. You didn't know where you were going to be. It didn't have to be a 4-star hotel. You took what you had and then you wrote about it, and you were able to go and really create different worlds during that time period. Plus, of course, it's jazz, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
jazz and amphetamines and that sort of thing. Of course, we don't talk about that part.
The old owners that sold us the place, they were a jazz musician family. So we have a lot of
Oh, it
photos
was
like
perfect.
horns on the porches and all that. And
That's
and the famed DJ Alan Freed is from Wimber. So he was raised a block away from the hotel.
That's right.
Guy
That's
who
right.
named rock and roll and threw the first rock concert and all that. And
Yep. I
so
mean,
there's
people don't realize they only see Windberg as a mining town, and it's so much more than that. That's why we're coming back. This next time we come back, we're using the hotel as our home base, and then we're going to allot enough time to go out and really enjoy it and really get a better sense of what the little town is. And I think that's what's wonderful about it. Now, tell everybody about, and I thought this was fascinating because uh, we have a Labrador that we took for scent classes.
Mhm.
And years ago, I met a retired New York State trooper that actually trained scent dogs, cadaver dogs in
Mhm.
Australia. He was the first guy that went over there to really teach in order to train these dogs.
Mhm.
Tell everybody about that. I mean, I thought when you told me about it, and then when I did some research and I was reading the article about the incident, I just at that point I said, "This place is for me. This place is home. This place I should be living here." Tell everybody about that because I was enthralled. That is amazing.
We should make a deal that whoever dies first, they'll give all our collection to the other person because you have such a
You got
collection.
it.
Oh,
Listen. I have my collections are in the will already, and I can change that. So don't worry about that.
or one
And
item.
and by the way, next time I come down, I'm going to bring you a couple pieces.
Okay, I'll
I'm
put
gonna
this
br-
out.
I'm gonna bring you a couple nice little pieces, nothing haunted, maybe, and I'll bring it. But tell everybody about
Okay,
when they brought in the cadaver dogs and what was going on with that.
So we have this room called the Monkey Room, and basically, just before I left California, I was working. I was at this prop house, a movie prop house, and they were throwing away this monkey
I
that
love that
nobody
monkey.
wanted to touch. And the monkey is from the movie Medicine Man, starring Sean Connery, where Sean Connery's in the jungle and he's trying to find an antidote, and this is his co-star. So that's kind of cool. And when I got to the hotel, I stuck him in this armchair in that room, and it just became the Monkey Room. We left him in the armchair, and he's been there 20 years. So that's as weird as it got, I thought. And then a couple years into living here, one day, a woman knocked on the door. She came with the author Catherine Ramsland, who was Anne Rice's biographer, actually.
Right.
And so Catherine Ramsland brought this woman who works for police, who trains cadaver dogs. And she said, "Hey, would you like me to walk my dog through your building?"
That's awesome.
So the dog went through the building, and in the basement that's one story, but then it went up to the monkey room. It went through every room, and it ended up in the monkey room, and it made the symbol for human remains against the one wall. Now these dogs are trained to not recognize taxidermy, but they can see a drop of blood from someone shaving from like 50 years ago. So I said, "We'll tear open the wall," and she reached in, and there was like a lot of crumbly stuff on the ground, and she pulled her hand out and said, "Hey, this is human bone chips in your wall. These are bone parts." And so it wasn't like a whole skeleton, but it was still like she pulled out a handful, and then left and called me the following Friday and said, "We'd like to come back, and I have 9 dogs." She was in Delaware. They were training a class. "I'd like to bring 9 trainers and their 9 dogs." And same thing happened. They let one dog in at a time. They did an experiment, and every dog went up to the same wall and said, "Human remains, human remains, human remains." So I don't know what's up the story with that. I have no idea why we have bone parts in our one wall, and I don't think anything's attached to them. I don't have any background of EVPs over the years from it or anything like that. But still kind of odd, one wall.
But you never know. I mean, this is stuff that you don't know what you're going to find whenever you have it.
Yeah.
What it's got to be close to 145 years. Is that how old the hotel is now? Or
I'd say about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't know. This could be left over from brothels. This could, I know, like we have a strong tradition here in the Erie Canal because we are located on the terminus, the end of the Erie Canal, where there was, a canal town, and it was all brothels, and children were basically thrown into the canal. You had, the workers, the sex workers would go and didn't want their kids to grow up that way. Or you had people who were murdered and thrown in the canal. And when they dredged the canal every year, they used to find all these different bones, and they used to find, and a lot of times, a lot of these bones ended up in the walls. And who knows, you could have had like a doctor that lived there that that may have had specimens. I mean, it's not unheard of. I know somebody that actually retrieved a skull, and you could see it was autopsied, of course, but it achieved a skull that was tucked into into a little crevice. And a good friend of ours has a girl's pelvis that was found up in the attic because the building used to be a pediatric office. So you never know. This stuff is really common, and I think that's to me. I think that just adds so much to it. Whatever happened to the bones? That's what I was going to ask you when we were down there, and I kept forgetting.
Okay, so the stuff that she pulled out, she took with her, and I never got back. I called about because they were taking it to a lab, and I called about it a long time later, and they said, "Oh, it got misplaced," and but everything else is still in the wall, and we just sealed the wall back up. So
let's play forward.
Whatever's still in the wall is still sitting in there.
And speaking as a psychic medium, the place buzzes, but there was nothing like nasty or like we're good. You've got to extract us and bury us properly. So I think it's whatever is there is happy being there, and that's what I think is so cool about it. Now you know what
neutral presence.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm going to be honest with you, because I've been to locations that have bodies that have been buried, on the property, and sometimes it's, when the memories are forgotten, sometimes they get a little disturbed by it. But I don't feel that there. I think everything is just so to me, it was probably the hotel's probably one of the most comfortable places that I've ever been. I was more comfortable in your hotel than I am at the Holiday Express. So of course, I mean, I do know what walks in through the
Yeah.
Holiday Express a lot of the time. Now, we got to talk about Dylan Fornoff, the artist that painted these beautiful murals that
Mhm.
you have, and what are survivors uh, in the demon room, and of course down in the bar area. I just think they're absolutely, to me, they're breathtaking. And when I talked to my buddy Johnny Zaffis, because Johnny, when he found out I was down there, he called me and he was like, "What did you think of the place?" And he said, he says, "I believe that I have one of his paintings." And I
Really?
went, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm going to go check." But he says, "I believe I do have one in my collection somewhere." So tell everybody about that. And I'll pop up a couple shots of his work.
Okay. So a lot of artists have lived in the building, and because that's who we targeted
Hmm.
in particular, pretty much only artists. And so this young guy from the local university, we took under our wing, and he moved in and he lived there for a couple of years. And one of the projects he worked on when he was there was this collection of private paintings, and they were floor to ceiling murals of
Beautiful.
mostly kind of demonic or dark angelic paintings. The eyes were always a black background. The eyes were missing in a lot, and like repainted on hands or on shoulders.
Hmm.
And and Dylan used to say to me, "I'm only painting what I see." And I don't think it was his room didn't have any kind of energy to it unusual when he moved in, but over time, as this collection grew, the energy started to change in the room, and it reached a real peak at one point where it was competing with our canopy room, and investigators would come and they'd want to investigate that room as much as the canopy room. And Brian Kano did uh, a documentary in the building, and it climaxed in that room, the room
Right.
you slept in, is the same
Yeah.
room, and they were getting threats and things like that, and there was a lot of talk of something demonic going on, and one day out of nowhere, Dylan just took every painting outside and burned them
Yeah.
all in one swoop. Said, like, "I need a clean slate. They got to go." And so there's a couple still in there because he missed that one's on the wall, so it wasn't removable. There were a couple he missed in a closet and stuff, but the whole collection's pretty much gone. And he was very protective of them. Like I thought John, Zaffis, and some other people had tried to purchase them, and there was no way he would sell them at the time period.
I think that, well, yeah, the other thing that I noticed when we first went in the room, and Andrea Richards, who was with us, we both sat in there and we both got like this buzzing. It was like
Mhm.
uh it was almost like there were honeybee hives in the wall. That's the best way that I can describe it.
Yeah.
And we both got it when we were in there. Nobody else felt it, but we did. And at that point I said, "You know what? That's the room I'm going to stay in because it's great." But I will tell you that it's a little disconcerting when you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you see an 8-foot demon at the foot of your bed.
Yeah.
I have to tell you that I had to go and blink my eyes a couple times to realize where I was. But I thought it was great, and it was very, very. It was. I thought it was a phenomenal room. Next time I come, I'm going to really. I think I'm going to do a. I'm just going to set up a camera with a couple, a couple target objects and see what we get. But
Mhm.
I know Kano really loved the place, and I thought it was great. I
Yeah.
really did. But I
Mine's
thought it
mine.
was just a great room. It's to me, it's to me it's comfortable and but again, most times with the exception of the Exorcist doll, there I that doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. So it was just great. And I think some people were. I can see where a lot of people would be just a little put off by that room,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
that's all part of the fun. I think that's all part of it. Now let's talk about the roof. Let's
Okay.
talk about the roof, because the roof, as a member of the Talking Board Historic Society and as a collector who has like 82 boards here. And by the way, thank you so much for allowing me to switch one board with you when you gave me permission, because I had one of the glow in the dark boards that you have up in the canopy room. So and when when you said I could leave one and take one, thank you so much, because that has made my day. You don't know what that meant to me, to have that piece that was from your hotel. I have it in my collection. As a matter of fact, I had a photo made and it's inside the box, and I have it, and I've got it like sealed up. So, it's for a private collection, but I have like 82 or 83 boards here, and I got the antique boards. So tell everybody about this roof, because I remember Kano telling me, you got to go to this place. You have to see the roof. Now, well, I'll let you go and talk
Okay.
about it.
Well, downstairs there's a lot of boards in the building, and they're all from guests that leave them there. They play people play Ouija in the canopy room, and it spells out "Get out, game over" very consistently. Get out, game over.
Love that.
And so they we have so many boards because people say, well, I don't want to take this back with me. They just want to leave it. So we after we did the largest tarot card on the ceiling, that got such nice feedback that we decided a couple years later, let's do the pattern again. Let's create some other large mystical work. I mean, it could have been the largest 8-ball or something at that point in time. And Camille, the girl I mentioned earlier, she and I uh, were uh, playing around with Ouija a bit that one winter, and the idea came up to put a Ouija board on the roof because that was a large canvas that had sort of just been waiting. We have a large flat roof,
Mm-hmm.
and so when you think about it, it's a stencil. It's not that big. It's not that hard to create. It's more of like, why did Warhol paint soup cans? It's not so hard to create.
Exactly. Yeah, I
So
agree.
we invited a few friends. Brian Cano was one of them, actually, and we all came out, and over a weekend we painted this large, massive Ouija board, and it rained on it, and so the whole thing bled like mascara.
Oh,
So it looked
oh,
really cool, but it was ruined, and we had to redo the surface and then redo the letters, and so we redid it, which took a little more time and a different weekend. And then we approached Guinness, and they gave us the Guinness gave us the award for the world's largest Ouija board. And so then it did not get the same reaction that we got. A terrible reaction. The neighbors were horrified. The newspaper article even was kind of like a negative thing about it. A town nearby, a woman who has a paranormal store, started a petition. She had 250 names
wow.
protesting, demanding that we remove our roof because it was creating a portal in the county, and a lot of negativity. All my neighbors around me, I was reading in real time as they were all saying, "Oh my God, what is in the neighborhood?"
Well, I mean, let me ask you this. When you decided to make this into a paranormal hotel, when you decided to go and make this into a theme hotel, what was the reaction of the town and the people around there? To me, I would be thrilled, because of the fact that now it's one more thing to bring people into the town, to bring revenue into the town. To me, I think that it's really important. It's a beautiful building. The building is being preserved. What was the reaction of some of these people?
Well, I would say first, the goal was not to create a paranormal hotel. It
Right.
was more of a kind of a machine I was working on that would be involved with summoning things and more personal
Right.
activity that I was
I
doing
agree.
myself.
I agree. Yeah.
and and we just started getting a lot of attention. And so my ex said, you should open up something on Airbnb, and we tried that, and it was a disaster. People weren't reading the details, and they were coming to our place and like, where have I arrived? This is horrible. And so that just didn't go over well at all. And then so I just took it off of Airbnb, and I just said, I'll make it public if people
Hmm.
want to stay here, but I don't really want to. I'm not in this to deal with the public on a. You're coming here for a good night's sleep and a shower, and so I've opened it up to people that want to creep around all night and kind of explore the collections and the things that I've been assembling together for other reasons. and
I
and
love it.
so that's how you guys found it too, I guess, because we don't advertise as a open hotel or anything like that. And but the town is getting a benefit from it. There's people that come in every weekend that buy gas and eat meals
Oh, yeah,
and
exactly.
bars and all that. And so I think they're starting to come around and see maybe they're doing a good thing there, even though it's a little strange.
Listen, strange cells. I don't care what anybody says. Strange cells. I want to go and I want to showcase just a little bit of one more room,
Whatever you want.
and it's one of my favorites. And it's Frank. Actually, Frank went and slept in the room, and he had a good night's sleep. But it's the vampire room. What was the inspiration behind the vampire room?
So, well, I love all the Universal monsters, all the
Mm-hmm.
early black and whites. So that's all over the building, but it has nothing to do with the building's history. That's all me bringing that from California. But the vampire room, Adam Bly, who's a demonologist, he
Right,
lived in that room for years after Paranormal U, whatever that show was called, came
right.
here. Adam left their show and moved into our building, and he was there for years. And so for years, that room was sort of like, I don't know, it was like a branch of the Catholic Church or something. There was crosses all over, and Adam had his hotline where people would call and say, "I think my kid's possessed. Can you get over here immediately?" And he would just run off with holy water. And so when he left after a couple of years, when we finally parted ways, I wanted to change the room, go in a totally different direction. So I made it a vampire room, and there's like a little tunnel that leads to a back room with coffins, and so it became now it's completely vampire themed. There's a collection of about 250 vampire movies in there, and so that's kind of the progression that took place over time.
I think it's great. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I think it's, to be honest with you, I think it's probably one of the most beautiful rooms that you do have in the hotel because it's so different. The only thing that freaks me out is the little little pathway to the out the back of the out the back of the closet and goes in there because I'm always looking over always looking over my shoulder. Never know what we're gonna find.
Yeah.
What's the general what's the general consensus of people that do come to the hotel? What do they are they like shocked, or are they just like, this place is like home?
Well, when it was on Airbnb, it was all kind of negative. Like people didn't know they were coming to a novelty hotel. They thought they were coming just to rent a room somewhere, and so that didn't go over well at all. But
No.
then that was like a year experiment that it's much better that I'm not part of that. And now the guests that come, it's been wonderful. I mean, the people that come there, they only want to be there for that reason. And so people come in, they're very positive, they're very respectful. They're like, it's meeting like-minded kin every weekend.
Right.
That's been wonderful for me to just enjoy hosting, entertaining people week after week, and so it's been very nice. I'm very happy about it. Every
I
weekend,
think
it's
it's great.
new.
I absolutely think everything about it is great. But we have before we're rapidly running out of time.
Okey
But
doke.
let me just put something out here. You know, I haven't gotten a chance to start reading it yet, Blair, but I'm working on it because I've got one more book that I'm working on before I can get to this book.
Wow. Well, thank you for the
Tell
plug.
Well, come on, Blair. This is my job. I have to go and I like to showcase great people, really nice people. And you're one of the nicest people I've gotten a chance to meet, and face to face. And I love what you've done, and I believe in what you've done. This is the tell us everybody about this book. That's one of the books that you've written.
Well, this is really neat that you're doing this because I don't think I've ever plugged this on anything before. But I used to work, and I still work on lower budget movies. But a movie is a massive venture, so I
Hmm.
started writing novels in the hotel as well, and kind of all set in Wimber back in the day. And this was a novel, a werewolf novel set in Wimber back back 100 years ago. And so I incorporate the mines when they're active, and so that's what I created. And so
I love it.
werewolf notice.
I think it's great. That was, I'm going to be honest with you. That was the first thing I noticed when I walked in the bar. Very
Yeah.
first thing. Maybe it's because I'm an author myself.
Mhm.
But the minute I walked in, I saw that, and I said, this is a person that has so much creativity in them. This is a person that is farsighted. This is a person who actually believes in what he does. He gets his hands dirty, creating all of this to me, this macabre beauty. I mean, I really think it's absolutely gorgeous. And what better way to also express yourself is through the written word. I mean, and I've been involved with. I think there's a lot of parallels between us because I've been involved with indie movies and some of the stuff like that. And it's just, to me, it's just amazing how so many of us actually follow that. It's almost like a blueprint. Sometimes it's a natural extension of our creativity. What's next for you guys? What's coming up? What are you guys doing? Um, and what and this is an important question. So I'm going to throw it all. I'm going to put it in a big ball of wax and roll it at you. What are the events you might be planning? You know, what do you want to see done? What is your vision for it? And also quickly tell us about the Shakespeare house that's next door.
Okay, so there's three projects that are coming up next. One, I've been working on a Shakespeare film for years, and I'm real proud of it. And it's very outside the box for me.
Awesome.
I'm not an academic. I don't have a Shakespeare background, but I have a very active dream life, and I had this dream where the universe said, go to this paragraph. It's like a Rosetta Stone. Do the following things, and so I went and I started studying the Shakespeare's first folio, and a lot of stuff opened up. And I'm kind of like this goofy guy who suddenly knows all this secret. I think I do anyway. Encoded Shakespeare stuff, and I started interviewing academics, and so that's the project. That's one film I'm working on, and then a second project that I'm doing is I have 20 years of wacky footage or investigations that went on or things that people encountered in my building. And I always had a camera rolling all the time. And so I'm about to start uploading all that. I have
Oh,
not.
awesome. What a
So
great idea.
about to come online within the, well, now you're part of it too, because you can there. But that's about to, probably by summertime, I'll have all that launching. And so those are two things film related that I'm involved with. And then the third thing is each year I upgrade the hotel more and more. And since I sold the church, all the money that I earned on the church is now about to go into the hotel and pay for better bathrooms and better heat and better, and so each year the hotel gets a little more comfortable to live in. And so that's what I'm up to.
That to me is great. That is to me is just wonderful. And I have to tell you that uh in our little group, it was a quieter night, which to me is okay by me. I'm not a guy that really wants, like, to wake up and have something standing over the top of me, and drooling on me. So it was a quieter night, but we broke out the board that I left, and it's great because we were getting some hardcore yes or no answers, hardcore, really good stuff.
Mhm.
And then we started getting, and I did a little ritual, to open up a portal. And of course, I closed it because because I have respect for the location. But uh, we started hearing footsteps on the second floor. You could hear them
Mhm.
kind of walking back and forth. Hardcore cold spot. Hardcore cold spot. It was amazing how cold it got in that little area by the dining room. That was crazy. But what kind of really made the night for me was, all of a sudden Andre and I were working with the board, and all of a sudden it stopped doing the yes or no answers, and then started zooming around, and then it stopped, and I spelled out Zozo, Zozo, and I went, yes, I like this. And usually, I'll be honest with you, usually I'll poke the devil, because I know it's not Zozo. It's not, I don't believe in that stuff. So I know it's not anything evil, but it's there to kind of scare us a little bit. But I thought, I don't know. We had one of the guys in the group that was a little uneasy already. So I said, I'm not going to push this too much further. But I ended up walking out, and all of the meters just lit up. I mean, it just lit up, and it's our friend John was there, and it just seemed to really concentrate on poor John. And that's wherever we go, John's our ghost magnet, because everything goes to him. But I thought it was a wonderful evening. I recommend everybody, guys, if you guys have a chance to go and visit the Grand Midway Hotel in Windward, Pennsylvania, please do it, because it is wonderful. It is it's a combination of art, it's a combination of paranormal, it's a combination of camp because of all of the great all of the great props that are there. And of course, if you stay in the demon room, the bathroom is right across from it, which is an added bonus, but you have to get under Pennywise first in order to get the giant Pennywise to get there. So, but needless to say, Pennywise scraped the top of my head a couple times during the night. But I gotta tell you, this guys, really coming from the bottom of my heart, this is the truth. I love the Grand Midway Hotel, and I'll be back. We've talked about it, and we're gonna
Great.
figure it out. And we went during the middle of the week, so we are really happy.
Mhm.
There's nobody really around, and I'm just gonna tell you what, guys, it doesn't disappoint. It will not disappoint. That's how good it is. And also up, of course, like you said, on the second floor by Martha's, I believe Martha's portrait, the dowsing rods just go crazy up there. So it
Yeah.
is a great place. And Blair, I have to thank you so much for being a guest on the show tonight. I know how your schedule is; it's insane, but I am just so honored that you took the time out to come on. And really,
It's a
Blair,
pleasure. Thank you.
all I can say is it's just one of the coolest places I have ever personally visited, and I can't wait to come back. I've already got experiments in the top of my in the back of my brain that I'm ready to go, and we're ready to go and
That'd be great.
just try
Yeah.
it. I can't wait. I can't wait. Next time I'm going to be videoing, so we're gonna break out some of the cameras and we'll see what we get. But it's great. Anyway, hold on the line for just a couple minutes. I want to thank you properly off the air. And I'm going to do my outro, and I'll be right with you.
Okay.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody. Take care.
Thank you so much again. This was just mind blowing. It was wonderful, and really, you're just a good guy. I'm going to tell everybody right now, he's just a good guy, and he's the type of guy that you want to work with. He's a great location owner. He really is, and I know a lot of crazy location owners. So I'll be right back, Blair.
Okay. Thank you. Take care.
Guys, you know what? I absolutely love the fact that we were able to go and talk to Blair, and we were able to go and get him on the show. But even more, these are locations that are truly hidden gems. And I can't say enough because it's just under the radar. A lot of people know about it, and it's been on different TV shows, but it's just under that radar. And people need to go and support these beautiful places. And again, paranormal is only secondary to the location. When you go to a location, you look for the beauty in the walls, you look for the chaos, you look for whatever there is. And this is a place that I'll bet you I can come down there 100 times. Even Johnny Zappa said the same thing. Every time he went there, it was always something unique. Always saw something new. So, guys, check it out. I have the website up. Check it out. Get online. Do it right now, and book a weekend there, guys. This is Tim Shaw. Thank you guys for being on here. And well, all I can say is, ciao, babies. Be good. Black Cat Lounge, where the elite meet next to the dumpster transfer station. Take care. See you next week. Bye bye.